Hello, this is Bobby Cappuccio. In Dr. David Kessler's book, The End of Overeating, he talks about companies, your restaurant chains, your fast food chains, that are funded by a ridiculous amount of money investing in research into hyperpalatable foods. Now, here's what a hyperpalatable food is. It is a food that is loaded with obscene amounts of fats, sugars, and salts in the exact combinations that create mass addictions to food. Now, this is especially precarious for kids because if you start to introduce these hyperpalatable foods to a child while their brain is still developing, it creates a situation where they can't produce enough serotonin. In other words, they can't feel good without the use of these types of foods. And what this means, bottom line, is that there are corporations out there in the world investing massive amounts of financial resources to destroy the lives of children for profit and to keep us sick and kill us early so they can get rich. Now, I don't like using words like good and evil and things like that, but if anything falls under the category of evil, that would be it. So how do you fight a corporation that is this malevolent, that is this greedy, and that is this well-funded and has that many resources? And I think the average person, the very best weapon they have is you, the person watching this right now, is a fitness professional. Because as we develop the skills to affect behavior in a way that helps drive people to alternative solutions other than sacrificing their brain chemistry and really being a slave to these rich people and these rich corporations. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with rich people. There's a lot of really rich people that do a lot of good with their money. But those are not the cigarette manufacturers, and those are definitely not the people out there in laboratories creating hyper-palatable food, are they? But if we create weapons for these guys to fight back by creating alternative solutions, we win people back. We win society back, one client at a time. And there's a lot of tools that we can use. I think when you start with the mastery of one simple tool at a time and let it have a compounding effect, pretty soon you have a whole arsenal of behavioral tools that we can use to help people help themselves. And one tool is people coming to us with what Dr. Martin Seligman would call learned helplessness. They've just tried and struggled and bumped up against themselves so many times. They truly have the belief that, I don't think I'm going to make it. I cannot go out to dinner and not order these foods. I know what to eat on the way to the restaurant, but then when I get there, it's just like something takes over. I just don't think I can make it. And what well-meaning people will tell you to do is instruct your client to get those negative thoughts out of their head. Just think positive. Well, that's kind of like telling somebody, stop thinking about a flying pink elephant. The second you try to stop thinking about it, you reinforce those thoughts. You'll see flying pink elephants everywhere. It'll be like you're on the worst acid trip ever. Jennifer Borton and Elizabeth Casey have done some well-documented research with the power of positive thinking and what happens when you tell a group of people to abstain from negative, self-sabotaging thought patterns. And what happens is the more they try to abstain from it, and the more they try to think positive, the more they suffer from despair, the more they suffer from learned helplessness, emotional duress. Not only does it not work, it creates the exact opposite effect. However, if you take a look at motivational interviewing, William Miller and Stephen Rolnick have a brilliant technique that they call amplified reflection. And what amplified reflection does is it allows people to hear their own thought patterns reflected back at them. So when somebody says, I don't think I'm going to succeed because I've tried this before, it won't work, I can't stop eating, whatever their favorite trigger food is, rather than saying, hey, what if you tried this, or arguing and saying, oh, don't think that, get that thought out of your head. We need to be positive, reflect it back with greater intensity. Say something like, so you're absolutely going to fail. This is never going to work for you. You have no self-control. Now, you're not discouraging somebody. All you're doing is reflecting back what they've just said. See, if you take a look at the research by Dr. Albert Bandura, who's probably one of the most widely quoted psychologists still alive today, said that there are three primary things that affect behaviors. There are personal factors, how we feel about ourselves, or our level of self-efficacy, or our ability to affect change in a certain area. There's environmental factors, and that can fall into our social groups. That can definitely fall into foods that screw with our brain chemistry. And then there are behavioral factors. And that's the things that we experience and the meaning we attach to them. And all of these things affect us on a behavioral level. So many of the thoughts that people have that they're trying to abstain from, that they should think positively, they're not even aware they have them. It's this steady stream of consciousness just below the level of consciousness. So they're just going through their program patterns and they're saying things to you that reflect what's going on inside their brain. Joseph Ladua says it the best. The person you are is reflective of the synapses you have. So when you reflect that back, it almost hits them right in, well, not in the face, we won't want to do that, but it hits them right in the head, literally. And they say, whoa, 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 wait a second, that's kind of extreme. So you either have to say, yes, that's right, and then we can really dig into, wow, they really feel that there is no alternative. How do we help them verbally through something called verbal persuasion, which is not where we are persuasive, but where we ask questions and we help them verbally through their own self-talk persuade themselves to an alternate conclusion, or they have to examine their statement and go, wait, that's a bit extreme. And that's why amplified reflection is a really powerful tool, because it feeds back people's own thought processes in a way that they themselves now can examine and say, is that true or is that false? And nothing is true all the time. Because if we say, the second we take the position, well, that's not true, well, they have to now convince us, because of cognitive dissonance, right? They want to remain consistent with what they just said, why what they said is valid. So the more we try to reassure them and give them reasons why, you know what, you can do it after they just said, I can't, what we do is force them into a position where they have to reinforce the thought patterns that create the behaviors that generate the outcomes they absolutely don't want in the first place.